Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of the How to Be Magical podcast. My name is Nikki Buchanan. I am the owner of Soul Things Botanica and I am your host. Thank you so much for coming back. It is the last day of Black History Month. It's February 28th at the time of this recording. It's also the, new moon in Pisces, and it's just a very magical, exciting time. March, as we all know it, is Women's History Month, and in light of everything that's going on in the country right now, I really feel like we got to get deep in our femininity deconstruction bag, and we are going to talk about everything as it pertains to what it means to be a Black woman in America. What the hell is this divine masculine, divine feminine nonsense? These gender wars, like all of this stuff, the history of Black women in America as it pertains to womanism, feminism, and our rights, our identity. We're going in. So, I just want to thank everybody who has been subscribing to the Substack. We have a ton of folks over there who have, we have a few people who have converted into paid subscribers, which I really appreciate. Thank you so much for supporting the work. We have everyone else who is equally as important in sharing, commenting, sending messages, like all of that. I appreciate every last one of the people who take time to read the things that I post and engage with my content, because you don't have to, you could be anywhere else on the internet, but you're rocking with me, and I really appreciate y'all very, very much. Thank you so much. So I was trying to be slick, and I wanted to do this as a one and done. I was going to be like, I'm just going to do one episode and that's it. And then I started to outline, and I realized it's probably going to be a 3-part. So, I want to share a clip of a reel that I did maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, where I briefly touched on everything that I'm about to touch on. Like, I don't think I ever fully unpacked it. I was just really annoyed for whatever reason. A tweet came across my timeline, and I was responding to it in a moment. So I'm just going to put a short clip of the reel, and then I'm going to come back and we're going to dive into everything that's happening. I don't know why my printer is doing things. God help me. Okay, I'll be right back. All right, roll the clip. I will say that there is something to be said now that's quite alarming. I've just seen one too many things about divine feminineness and submission, that, and all this shit. I'm just like, they just overturned Roe versus Wade. And we talking about fixing food for niggas. I truly believe that we are in a place right now where people are clinging to things because they feel like they will be protected by certain institutions if they just go along to get along. And I get it on one level, but then on another level, I feel like it's just like people kind of just like doubling down. A lot of shit is crumbling right now, like a lot. And that's not a bad thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing. But I do find it very interesting that in the time when women, uterus holders, whatever the fuck you want to call us these days, we are losing rights at an alarming rate. We are losing autonomy. We are losing protections. We are experiencing high levels of violence and opposition for just living our fucking lives. That people are doubling down on this patriarchal bullshit. I seen somebody on Twitter this morning saying something along the lines of, women who, it annoyed me so much I done forgot. I can't say it verbatim, but it was something along the lines of, true divine feminine women don't complain about this, and true divine feminine women, will attract a partner, and this, that, and the third. And I'm just like, this shit is patriarchy with some sage. I'm sick of these people. I am so tired of these people boiling down femininity and divinity to something so simple as a fucking head wrap and a bundle of fucking sage and a candle and some body jewelry and some crystals and some... That shit is not a look, right? Spirituality is not a fucking aesthetic. Femininity is not a fucking aesthetic. Thank you. Nick, I'm tired too. I'm just tired. I'm tired. Because it's very rigid and it's so, again, it's patriarchy with a fucking bundle of sage and a candle. Patriarchy and a candle. The fuck needs that? The same patriarchy that try to kill our black asses. The same colonialist bullshit. Except now we figure if I put a head wrap on and say Grand Rising, that, you know, shut the fuck up. I'm sorry. I don't like it. Because it's so reductive and it's so counterproductive to what we need right now in this moment. We need community. We need peace. We need togetherness. We need to, the sharing of resources. We don't need somebody peddling an old script in a head wrap. Peddling some 1950s Leave It to Beaver shit in blackface. That's corny. Anybody could do that. I'm sorry. That's corny. Listen. They came for my life on Facebook many, many years ago when I said that black folks are matriarchal. When I said that, I said to people, you would have thought I said, I'm going to eat your babies. The way them people came for my neck. I said, in the grand scheme of things, we are a matriarchal society. Whether we want to acknowledge it or not, I don't care what y'all want to call it. Whether we want to acknowledge it or not, we are a matriarchal people. And everybody's family had a big mama, had some OG aunties, had a council of women that held shit down. I don't know why we think that that's such a bad thing. And I think that's something that we have done as black people in this side, in the Western Hemisphere, is try to adhere to some colonialist shit that don't work for our fucking families. Sorry. So when I hear things like submission and all this shit, I'm like, what the fuck are we talking about? The people that got shit done in my family was not submitting to nobody. The people that made sure that kids had food and school clothes and people was going off to school, people that sat and organized shit. Let me tell you something. My grandfather, God rest the dead, who I've never met, who everybody says, I'm so much like him, I'm just like him, you just like your grandfather. Oh my God. That man was the errand boy for the women of his family, for his elders. He had a house full of women. He had my grandmother and 3 daughters. He was the only man in his house. He was doing all of the running. He was doing all of the bidding. So this concept of you need to submit to a man and these fucking times, what the fuck are we talking about? Listen, that's a white woman's problem. I'm sorry. That's a white woman's problem. Because the patriarchy don't respect their own women. White, colonialist, patriarchal, cis, heteronormative patriarchy don't respect their women. But their women will play a role. And the black woman, no matter what before she even opens her mouth, she's the antithesis of everything that this fucking country stands for. So no, I don't have to go along with the fucking program that they set in place for me. I don't gotta do that. Do that for who? Do that for what? What's that gonna get me? It's not gonna get me shit. Honestly. It might give me cancer and fibroids. And a little depression, Depending on how I feel that day. If my husband, And it's not to say I don't want to get married, nothing like that. It's not to say I don't want to find a good man and all that shit. But at the end of the day, it's not my priority. Because I know that life will still continue whether men are there or not. Okay, so that was a mouthful. And like I said, when I first recorded that reel, it was very on the fly. I was in my car. I was literally waiting for the parking ordinance to pass so I could go back home and go to sleep before I had to go to work. So it was a very rushed thing. And I realized I never came back to it. So I wanted to come back to it. So this episode is called Unpacking Femininity, Patriarchy, and the Black Women's Experience. I know, right? A mouthful. But for short, we're just going to call it Unpacking Femininity. And I just want to ask y'all, and this it's going to be a lot of questions that I'm asking in the course of this episode that I want y'all to take time and sit with, because these are questions that I asked myself, and these are questions on certain things that I'm still unpacking myself. So this is we in it together, unpacking things. What does it mean to be a black woman in a world that constantly tries to define you, box you in, or erase you entirely? Right? Now, granted, I understand that all of my listeners are not black women, but I'm going to keep it a stack. I'm a black woman. Y'all know who I am. I'm a black woman in America. I'm only speaking from my perspective, truly. Like, this is the only perspective that I have. These are the lenses that I have. So if you could take something from the conversation, you're welcome to it, but I don't want anyone to feel like I'm going to speak on things that don't have nothing to do with me, and I'm going to be quite frank about that. This is going to be a very nuanced, niche down conversation. So let's just everybody keep it respectful, keep it cute. And I hope we understand too that, like, especially as a black woman in America, a woman of darker complexion, a woman of larger size, right? Like, we got to think about all of the different things that each one of us has, right? That may make our experience different from the next woman, and it's valid, right? There's no universal woman experience. I don't care what anybody says. Women are experiencing, yes, we experience certain things, but together, but for the most part, it's truly based on segmentation, how you look, your culture, what class, your stat, like it's mad things. So when we talk about femininity for black women, we often talking about a battleground, right? We're talking about a space where we are told that we're too much, we're not enough, or we're just simply invisible, right? So today we're going to just reclaim the narrative of what and own for ourselves. What do we feel as black women that it means to truly be a black woman? So in this episode, I'm going to talk about the historical roots of black women's femininity. We're going to talk about the shame that some of us may experience from being labeled as masculine. Right? We're going to talk about how our families and our communities may have shaped our identities, and we're going to reflect on the lessons of the women who came before us, right? So as we're having this conversation, I really want y'all all to think, how do you define femininity for yourself? And what messages about being a black woman have you internalized, and how have they shaped you? Because, again, a lot of the things that I have been unpacking has been shame, right? And I realize that shame is a very powerful emotion. It truly, it makes people project things onto you, like when they feel ashamed about certain stuff and you don't, right? It makes you not, limit yourself in certain ways, so that way you don't fully express yourself, because you're like, okay, I don't want to be perceived as this and I don't want to be perceived as that. But like, if we truly want to be free, and we're talking about right now in a climate where this government, where this oppressive regime, is coming down, bringing the hammer down super hard, we're seeing how many people are crumbling, and we're seeing who's not, right? Like, we're seeing in real time what black women's energy looks like when it's pulled back a little bit, just a touch. Like when we just withdraw our outward support for certain things, we see how everything around us start crumbling, which makes you wonder about certain things. I'm gonna be honest, it makes me wonder, okay, what the hell was y'all doing this whole time? Okay, and I spoke to my aunt about this earlier. As black women in society, we understand that when we talk about intersectionality, if you're a black and you're a woman, okay, you got two things that on your plate that you're dealing with every day on top of each other. It's like they're very much intertwined. You don't get to separate your blackness from your womanhood. It don't work like that. I'm a black woman. I'm not black first. I'm not a woman first. I'm a black woman together, right? And I don't need to separate anything, right? Like, I'm always going to be a woman. I'm always going to be black. I'm a black woman. That's my identity that I walk in this world as. So it does me no favors to be like, oh, that don't have nothing to do with me, I'm a woman, or that don't have nothing to do with me, I'm black. Like, both things matter. And so I had to unplug the printer for some reason. Okay, I don't know, my electronics been going wild in here. Anyway, right? When we talk about, oh gosh, we're gonna go in. We're talking about the lessons that we learned from our grandmothers, right? Because now, before we even figure out what this conversation means for us today, we got to take it back, right? Take it back 2 generations, right? Take it back 1, 2 to your grandmother. Now, everybody's grandmother is from a different time, because we all different ages here. But I'm speaking specifically to the women whose grandmothers were from the silent generation. If your grandmother was born between 1925 and 1945, right? And prior, there's a certain type of oppression that they faced, that they walk through the world like that, right? I always joke, like, I was raised by a Depression era grandmother, and I literally move in a way that, like, somebody who was raised in the Great Depression, the way, like, I look at money and all of this stuff, and I have to unpack that, right? And a lot of our grandmothers did not have the autonomy that we have today. Like, the things that we take for granted, being able to live on your own, being able to work the hours and the job that you want, being able to go to school, being able to have control over your reproductive system. These are all things that a lot of us don't, put into perspective, that there are women that we come from who did not have these same choices, right? So when we're looking at what's happening today, and we're looking at men talking about, I wish I could take it back to a simpler time when my grandmother stayed home and my grandfather this and the third. It's like, sir, have you spoken to your grandmother? Did you talk to granny? Because I bet you 9 times out of 10, your grandmother is not telling you as a man the same thing that she's telling me as her granddaughter, right? Like, specifically my grandmother, my mother's mother, was always like, you need to have your own money. You need to have your own, you need to go to school and get an education. You need to be able to take care of yourself. And you don't need to be having a baby before your time. Like, there was like so many things that she just drummed into my head that I don't even, flinch. Like, the thought of somebody telling me I can't go to school, or I can't have a job, or I can't live where I want, is just like ridiculous to me. It's like, what the hell are we talking about? But these women come from times where if they themselves didn't experience it, they watch the women around them experience getting their head knocked between the washer and the dryer for not having the food on the table. Okay, being forced to carry babies and have children that they didn't want, right? Being told that you couldn't work a certain job or you couldn't go to school. My paternal grandmother, before she passed, God rest the dead, told me, she said, first of all, she told me she didn't even want to get married. That was number one. She said, I didn't want to get married. I wanted to go to the nunnery. I wanted to be a nurse. That's a whole different life than what the life that she had, right? This woman ended up having 6 children, okay? Lived in 3 different parts of the world, Jamaica, England, and New York. And she told me straight up she never wanted to get married, that her marriage was arranged, and that she felt like she had no choice. And in hindsight, when I'm looking back at like how beautiful she was and all this stuff, it's like her beauty didn't even exist for her. She wasn't even trying to be beautiful for the world. She said she was wanting to go to the convent and be a freaking a nun and a nurse. That's a totally different life than being a wife and a mother, And she said when they got to England, she wanted to go, finish up her education to become a nurse. And she said, my grandfather told her, I ain't bring you here to go to school. Girl, when I say I was gagged, I was sitting in the living room. I said, he said, what? He told me I didn't bring you here to go to school. Oh, I said, oh, damn, that's crazy, because I don't know how I would have responded to that. I know I wouldn't have been too happy with a man telling me I ain't bringing you here to go to school, and I'm trying to go back to school and be a nurse and fulfill my dreams. But we left our whole life and everything behind to come to a whole new country and follow your dream. But when it comes to me and what I want, you're telling me, nah, I ain't bringing you here for that. Excuse me? Like, that, when she told me that, it made a lot of sense on how she engaged with the children, her children, my father and my aunts and uncles, how she engaged with us, the grandchildren, how she engaged with my grandfather. My grandmother was very stoic at times. She, there was times when I remember her being light and laughing and having a time, but I just remember her being so miserable a lot of the times, just constantly unhappy and nitpicking and controlling and all of these things. And it made me think, well, if somebody is controlling your life, you're going to do what you can to try to get your get back. And it's not going to be healthy, right? It's not going to be healthy. It's not going to be healthy. It's not going to be a healthy way of existing. If somebody is imposing their will on you and literally telling you, you can't do this, you can't do that, you're going to find, listen, nobody is born to be a slave. No one is born to serve, okay? No one is born to, all this talk about submission and all of that. Baby, we are born to be free. So if you literally got to lay down with a man who's telling you, I'm going to control, and has the power to control your life, right? It's not like he's not just saying this and you have some options on where you can go and where you can't go. Because I remember getting to it with my cousin a couple of years prior to my grandmother telling me that that piece of the story. And my cousin was like, well, why didn't she just leave? I said, well, where she was going with 6 kids and no husband in the 60s. Women couldn't even have their own bank accounts in 1972. So literally, where was she going? She's supposed to go back to the mother that sold her off to this man? That's what she was supposed to do? Respectfully, where was she going? Who was who was her allies? Her sisters had their own kids and their own life. Her father had passed on. That's what got her in the situation in the first place. Oh, well, she should have just left. Left and go where? With what? Like, again, you cannot be looking at the lives our grandmothers lived through the lens of our, today, 2015, 2025. You looking through the eyes of somebody who's existed in 1960, talking about what you would have did. That's crazy. Okay. And conversely, my grandmother, or my maternal grandmother, she wanted to get married to my grandfather. They were friends. They went to school together. They were friends, and they wanted to get married. And they wanted to build this life together. And they did, and they were happy together. And my grandfather did not tell my grandmother what she was and wasn't doing. Like, that wasn't a thing. She wanted to stay home for the first couple of years when my mom and my aunts were born. And then there was a distinct conversation between my grandmother and her friend, Miss Ernestine. Another one, God rest her dead. Miss Ernestine. Miss Ernestine was a single mom at the time because, as my aunt tells me, her husband was putting his hands on her. And my grandfather said to the husband, if you're going to beat her up, just leave her alone. Because this is crazy. Like, you can't be putting your hands on her. Like, this is nuts. And her and the husband parted ways. And when the children, Miss Ernestine had 3 and my grandmother had 3. And then my nana said they sat on the stoop together and they said, here's the deal. One of us is going to get the job and one of us is going to stay behind and mind the kids. Whoever gets the job first is the one that goes to work. And my grandmother ended up being the one that got the job first. And that was their pact. They had a pact, right? So when we think about what it means to be a black woman in America, right? It's about these types of pacts that happen, right? It's about the mothers and the grandmothers that took care of kids that weren't their own. It's about the women who made pacts with each other to say we are a family, we are a village, we're a community, okay? And that type of matriarchal collectivism directly goes against what this country is built on and what they want us to subscribe to, right? Because if we think about it, what white cis hetero patriarchy is telling these women is that you can stay home. I'll pay all the bills. I'll do everything. You by yourself though, okay? You need to do all the cooking, the cleaning, the washing, the rearing, all that shit by yourself. I ain't giving you no money for nothing, actually, okay? You gotta ask me for money for groceries. Girl, what? I'm not doing that. And a lot of these women are overwhelmed and all of this stuff because no one is meant to do all of that by themselves. That's not natural. Again, and if we're really going to go in there and bring the race aspect into it, black women have always had to work outside the home. Always. Always, for the most part, have always had to take on something, whether it was taking on a little sewing, whether it was doing hair, whether it was doing washing, whether it was cleaning people's house, whether it was cooking food. There was things that you had to do to supplement something because unless your husband really had it like that, a lot of women didn't have it like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just being like, when we think about, this whole, people want to romanticize the 50s and talk about, Leave It to Beaver and, a woman that's home with an apron, fully dressed with heels and serving dinner, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Oh, yeah, okay. A lot of those women, those white women, they had hired help, okay? Your mothers and your aunts and your grandmothers and all of that stuff was working for Miss Ann, all right, across town. And they're coming home and doing the stuff for their own kids, right? So again, this kind of illusion that this country is literally still trying to force down our throats of, women need to be in a home and you don't need to be going to work. That's the only reason why they're rolling back all of these initiatives for equal rights and diversity, equity, inclusion, and all of this stuff is because at the core of it, okay, they do not want women to have access to resources because when people have access to resources, they make different choices, okay? If you got somebody's back up against the wall and there's no money on the table and food, and there's no money in the pot and no food on the table, you're going to take whatever's offered because that's how to survival, because that's what our grandmothers had to do. A lot of our grandmothers did not want to be married to these grandfathers of ours. Sorry. Okay? Pop might have been the sweetest old man by the time you came around, but he probably gave that woman hell before you got there. And you was none the wiser. Okay? Because those women, again, there's a reason they call the silent generation. They wasn't going to say nothing. They said, well, whatever. I'm just going to hold it down and fine. That's why they were telling the granddaughters and the daughters something different. Go to college. Okay? Get your degree. Go to school. Get a trade. Get a job. Have your own money. Make sure when you go out with that man, have a little money in your bra in case he start acting funny. Why were they telling us this? Because they knew that men had a tendency to act funny. Okay? And men treat you a whole lot differently when you ain't got shit versus when you have a little something in your pocket. Which is why you see all this rhetoric now. Oh, we don't care about your degrees and we don't care about... Oh, shut up. Okay? Shut up. Your degrees won't keep you warm at night. It keeps the food on the table and it keeps the bills paid. So technically it does keep me warm at night. Okay? Sorry. Men, a lot of these men, and again, this goes hand in hand with the patriarchy and racism go hand in hand. And I wish people would truly understand that this whole, femininity coaching and all that is a slippery slope into the alt-right. We're going to really touch on it because at the end of the day, there is nothing inherently masculine about a woman who has her own stuff, okay? Unless you think that only men are allowed to have things, and again, that's where you need to unpack. Because why is access to resources a masculine trait? What the fuck are we talking about? Huh? How is having a job masculine? How's going out making your own money masculine? That is such a reductive and myopic way of looking at masculinity and femininity. That's how I know we got to sit down and separate some of this shit. Because you literally mean to tell me that it's feminine to starve? The fuck are you talking about? Not having access to resources is femininity? What? Waiting for someone to give you something instead of going out and getting it yourself is being feminine? Stop it. I truly think that these are the things, when we talk about what it is to be a black woman in America, we're talking about black women who have traditionally never fit the mold of what white America deems to be feminine at all. So why are we sitting here in 2025 trying to contort ourselves to fit in to someone else's definition of what femininity is when they ain't have us in mind in the first place? Sorry. And look how well that's going for them. They done overturn Roe versus Wade. They're trying to give it a no-fault divorce. They're trying to make it illegal for women to travel freely within the country if they think that you're with child. They're trying to force women out of the workplace. They're trying to force women back into the home. They done got rid of Head Start. They done got rid of WIC. They done got rid of food stamps. They're trying to get rid of Medicaid. Look at all of these things that they rolling back. They're only rolling it back because they know if you have access to resources that you make different decisions and you might not include that man in your decisions. If you have access to food, childcare, education, employment, that says a lot. Anybody that has to go through such great lengths, okay? And like I said, this is how you know racism and patriarchy are intertwined, because it's literally the same playbook as what they have done to black people in this country. They have put roadblocks in front of us for 400 years, and we have jumped over every single hurdle and come out on top, and it's like they cannot fathom. They can't fathom. That's why all this talk about meritocracy and all this. Baby, if the United States was a meritocracy, black women would be running everything. Full stop. We are the most educated group in this country. We are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs. So despite all of the stuff that they want to say about us, single mothers this, and promiscuous that, and baby, we going to school and we opening businesses at a rate that exceeds everybody else. So how in the hell is this supposed to be about merit and black women ain't in charge of everything? It ain't about merit. It's never been about merit. They know that. We know that. Well, we some of us don't, but hopefully we could bring each other into the fold and lift each other's chins up and adjust each other's crowns and say, sister, you know that you got something. Otherwise, these people wouldn't be going so hard to stop you if they didn't think that you was a force to be reckoned with. Okay? And also, that's why you seeing all these women right now, these white women out here crying, talking about, we need help, and where's the black folks, and where's this, and where's that? They want you to be a damn mule. because they know that the things that we have gone through in this country, they cannot handle it. They could not handle it. They wouldn't be able to walk a day in our shoes, okay? They wouldn't be able to walk to the corner store in our shoes, being treated as a black woman. And a lot of these people prop themselves up on the fact that they're not black women. At least I'm not a black woman. Well, baby, good for you, okay, I guess. But if you're constantly looking outside of yourself to be defined about who you are as a woman and say, well, as long as I'm not that, you see what the problem is? That's the problem. Now you so focused on what other people is doing, you ain't even focused on what your gifts are and what your innate capabilities are. And I feel like, again, if you are a black woman in America, you already know that ain't nobody making room for you at the table. You got to build your own fucking table, okay? And that's what we've done consistently out of necessity. So, again, there's a lot of people right now that's like, oh my gosh, up in arms about where the country is going. And don't get me wrong, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I am concerned about where the country is going. However, I am not in any way, shape, or form worried about my ability to survive this administration. I know I could survive. If women before me survived on significantly less, I have way more resources than my grandmothers had access to. I could survive. And I have to survive. I have no choice. But I cannot say, oh God, maybe they're going to do what they've been doing. And I'm going to survive. I'm going to do more to survive. I will thrive, right? So when we talk about being a strong black woman and all this stuff, be a strong black woman for yourself, right? And I think that's when we talk about how exhausting it is for everybody to constantly lean on us and look to us for everything and want us to fix shit, and then they don't want to listen to us. Again, you know how many times I had to remind people at work, my name is not Oprah and I'm not Mammy, okay? I ain't here for you. I'm here for me. Oh, well, Nikki, will you give us some words of encouragement? It's like, girl, who are you talking to? I'm not. Encourage yourself. If I do something for myself and you happen to get a little roll off, catch a little wave or whatever, you're welcome. But I ain't doing it for you. And I think that, to me, I feel like that is a big part of how you maintain your energy and avoid being pigeonholed into that strong black woman trope. Let some of these people figure out their own problems. All right. Go, oh, wow, that's interesting. You could, wow. Oh, wow. You could, oh, wow yourself through a whole conversation. Listen. And then if it gets too much, you say, you know what? I don't really feel too good. I got to go. Conserve the best parts of yourself for you. Truly. Truly. Okay? Because there's this concept that femininity is a constant nurturing and a constant pouring of love and a constant giving without any type of reciprocity. Again, that is not the true definition of a feminine nature, a feminine force, right? A feminine element. In my personal opinion, I feel like femininity is creativity, right? The act of creation, to fully create something, all right? And creation is bloody and exciting and beautiful and messy. And it's sometimes some stuff, it just gets created for the sake of it being created. It's not for any purpose. It's just to make things, right? If you want to go into nature and talk about what femininity is in nature, how can you say that femininity in women is being docile, submissive, and all this stuff, and then not make them correlations when you watching Animal Planet? Have you ever seen a mama bear? Have you ever seen a lioness in the Serengeti? What are we talking about? Go get close to that bear cub if you want and see that bear ain't gonna tear your ass up, okay? Tear your ass up. She gonna rip you limb from limb, okay? Look at how the pride of lions is mostly comprised of female lions. With just one male lion there. Literally for show. And a little procreation here and there. But he ain't going out hunting for nothing. He's not providing and protecting. So, again, don't allow, like I said, all of this new age, femininity is this and masculinity is that. It's very rigid. And it's not even accurate. And it's very insulting to the true femininity, the true feminine divine creation that exists all over this globe, all in all of these ecosystems and all of these spheres. What are we talking about? Right? Yes, everyone loves to adorn themselves and dress up and all of that stuff. But why is it that in the animal kingdom, it's the males that's putting on a show to get some, okay? Birds will sit up there and they do a whole interpretive dance, and they gathering sticks and feathers to build it. They doing everything. And the females, they're the ones with the bright feathers and all of that stuff. And the females are like, I guess he's all right, I guess. She ain't impressed. She's nonplussed. She's unbothered. All right? So again, unpack these ideas of what femininity and patriarchy and all this shit really means to you as a black woman. Okay? So how do we honor the strength of our grandmothers without feeling like we have to carry the weight on our shoulders, right? So like I said, think about the things that your grandmother had to go through, okay? Putting up with a man she probably didn't even want to get married to in the first place sometimes, all right? Getting up and cooking, cleaning, washing, having sex, doing all types of stuff, never living on her own, some of our grandmothers didn't even know how to drive. Neither one of my grandmothers knew how to drive a car, right? They always had to have an escort or somebody to take them somewhere, this and the third, and blah, 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 right? The fact that you even get a driver's license is honoring grandma, because you could get up and go. You can do whatever the hell you want. A lot of them didn't have that choice, right? So think long and hard before you want to start turning over your agency to some man because he's dangling a promise of marriage and a little money and paying the bills and all that shit. Girl, relax, right? Easy. Calmate. Like, there's no reason for you to be so pressed. And if you're making decisions out of need, think about your grandmother. If you're still making the same type of decisions out of need like your nana was, all right, babes, you got some work to do. Work on you, truly. Like, truly work on you, all right? Now, let's talk about being perceived as masculine. Ooh. I'm going to talk my shit about this because growing up, my father dressed me in men's clothes. I was in men's clothes until I was like 17, right? And, I mean, aside from the summers where I worked and I had to, I got a chance to buy my own stuff, I didn't want to dress in men's clothes. My father was dressing me in men's clothes because he didn't want anybody to look at me, right? And now he's going to talk about, it's the 90s, it was baggy, it was unisex. But I know exactly why he was dressing me in men's clothes, because he swore up and down that there was going to be a grown man that was looking at me. But, babes, it didn't matter what I had on. A grown man was still looking. So, it's what it is. And I've always looked like this. I've always been dark-skinned. I've always been a little on the chunky side. I've always worn glasses. And I have not been the beauty standard ever, right? Got picked on for being dark-skinned, got picked on for being tall, got picked on for wearing glasses, picked on, right? And was the ugly friend, the fat friend, all this stuff. So this is why I got the personality I got now. Like, if we're gonna roast, we could roast, because I done been roasted enough times. So I got comebacks on deck, right? I'm always ready. You want to play the dozens with me? We could go. Like, you might want to put your hands on me when it's all said and done, because I could flame you. You understand? And even that, right? The act of being funny, the act of being, opinionated, the act of being loud, all of that stuff, being flashy, all of that is in this Western patriarchy is considered masculine, which is crazy, right? And it's like, okay, you're not being docile, you're not being quiet, you're not, this whole thing. I've been a nerd my whole life, right? I know that a lot of men don't like there's a certain type of man that don't like a nerdy, smart woman that's mouthy and is gonna ask a lot of questions and stuff, right? Like, because I've been there too many times, right? I've had too many engagements with being the friend on the side and having going places with a homegirl, and she's talking to somebody, and his friend is there mad as hell that he's stuck with the ugly friend, that he's stuck with the fat girl, that he's stuck with this, that, and the third. And it's like, bro, you can't even just be friendly. You can't even have conversation, And it's been so interesting to me, because either I'm going to sit there and let you disrespect me, or I'm going to stand up for myself and be perceived as masculine. Bitch, I'll be a man all day. You understand? I don't care. Because at the end of the day, putting up with disrespect because I'm ashamed, I'm scared of how I'm going to be perceived and all of that stuff, that's crazy to me. That's nonsense, right? Like, I had to catch myself a couple weeks ago. I went to the corner store, whatever, to go get some snacks and my little beverage. And I'm coming out, and this, some young dude in front of the store, and he tried to talk to me, and I just kept it moving because I'm too old to talk to nobody that's standing in front of the corner store. And his man was like, "Oh, I know you hear my man's talking to you." It took everything in me not to turn around and flip both of these little bird chest niggas. You feel me? Like, who are you? First of all, who are you talking to like that? Who's that working on? And why do you think you yelling at me is going to get me to do anything? And again, there's something to be said about being able to stand up for yourself and establish boundaries with people that they don't like. Especially if you look a certain way. People feel like if you look in a certain way, and to them, being a black woman in a society means you're supposed to just take whatever, because allegedly you're supposed to be in the bottom of the totem pole. You're supposed to just take whatever anybody throws at you. You're supposed to just hold it and just be sad about it or whatever. And then the minute that you throw it back at them, or you brush it off or whatever, or you just keep, operating in your energy that nourishes you, people feeling some type of way about that. Because who the fuck are you to have self-respect? Who the fuck are you to have dignity? You know what I mean? Men have said to me on the street, "Oh, when the last time somebody told you was beautiful?" I'm like, every day. The fuck? And they upset because you thought you was doing me a favor by paying me a compliment, telling me I'm beautiful. Like, what am I, some dog-faced bitch? Are we serious? Like, again, but that goes to other people's perceptions. Other people have perceptions about what it is to be a black woman, about who's supposed to be attracted. This is why some of us have to unpack this. Okay, you got to unpack it. You see it anytime it's a bigger woman or a darker woman that's openly being loved on. The comments is always going ham. "Oh, it must be because of her money. And she could find love, and my phone is still dry." Well, baby, your phone is probably dry because your personality is probably dry. Okay, and with that nasty ass attitude, I can see why your phone is dry. Because why she don't deserve love? Because she falls outside of what you deem to be attractive. You here starving yourself, getting shot up with Ozempic, eating food that don't taste good, working yourself into a fucking frenzy, to getting on the table, opening your body up and getting surgery and shit, just to get a little crumb of attention. And this person who's existing exactly how they want to exist, wearing what they want to wear, looking how they want to look, being loved on, is a problem for you. You got to unpack that, babes. You got to unpack that. You got to unpack that. And I will say that fat phobia is probably one of the last acceptable forms of white supremacy, white delusion, that's acceptable, okay? And that's why I say this femininity coaching and all this shit is a very slippery slope into the alt-right pipeline, all right? Because Eurocentric ideas of femininity are thinness, delicate features, submissiveness, right? All of these things that have been weaponized against black women, all right? All of these things. All of these things. All of them. Okay? So, you thinking that you're going to do all of the things and adhere to all the things and look the way, babes, it ain't going to work. And that's okay. It ain't meant to work. It barely works for them. That's why you got Gwyneth Paltrow sitting up in an article, an interview, talking about how she work out for how many hours a day and all she eating is bone broth and a few sprigs of lettuce. Babes, what are we talking about? Bone broth is not a meal. Bone broth not a meal, okay? It's not a meal. Sorry. Contrary to popular, bone broth is a side dish. It's something you have on the side of some real food. Gwyneth Paltrow, grown ass, gonna sit up there and talking about, "Oh, I work out for an hour, and then I get in the sauna for an hour, and then I break my fast with some bone broth, and then for dinner I have some steamed vegetables." Babes, you're hungry. Okay? You're hungry. That's crazy to me. That's crazy. Sorry. And that's why at any point in time, if a man gets upset with me, the first thing I is about, "You fat black bitch." Yeah, and and neither one of those things are bad. Yes, I'm fat. My ass sits up real nice and good, and my titties is good, and I'm happy. The thighs is thick. I'm well fed. All right. There was a point in time in history where women with my size, it meant that I was eating good, and that meant I had some money in my pocket. All of these things are true. I'm eating well, and there's money in my pocket. My cupboard is not bare. Okay? You cannot shame me for the way I look. Okay? I look the way I look. I have no white woman aspirations. I've been saying this for years. People look at me crazy when I'm like, I have no white woman aspirations. They're like, why would I aspire to be anything outside of myself? I am who I am. But again, only men in this society are allowed to be themselves, despite all of the conversation that they're having right now about, oh, no one likes men for being men. Please. There's a man right now with a hairline who's all the way back here, who's sitting up talking about what somebody's supposed to look like. And there's a woman right now who's gorgeous, who's wringing her hands about somebody's dusty son who ain't called her or texted her back. So again, flip that narrative, okay? The impact of these stereotypes of women, especially black women, being unfeminine and being angry and being harpies and all of this stuff, that exists in an exact opposition to what they feel white women are and how they're supposed to be and why we're not acting like that. Meanwhile, patriarchy don't respect their own women. All right? Don't respect their own women. That's why those town hall meetings been going viral. About, you see that woman that got carried out of the town hall like hog-tied damn near in Idaho? That white woman, she was a doctor. Talking about reproductive rights of women and all this stuff, and they dragged her up out of there like she was a wild animal. And all the women in the comments, white women in the comments talking about, oh, well, the other women in the room, they were scared. And they were this. Girl, shut up. Because every black woman whose video I saw on TikTok was like, babes, I didn't even have to know. If it was a black woman, they was doing that too. I wouldn't even have to know, homegirl. We would have all, it was some furniture moving in that bitch. And absolutely, absolutely would have been some furniture moving in that bitch. Because what are we talking about? I am not afraid to be labeled as masculine at all. I'm not afraid to look some of these men dead in their eye and be like, my dick's bigger than yours. How you feel about that? Which is also why, all right, this might stir the pot, might ruffle the feathers, might upset the apple cart. I personally have no beef with trans women. Our beef is not with trans women. Sorry. There is no beef there. Anybody that wants to be a woman right now, in this climate, with all this shit going on, babes, you have my respect, okay? Because trust me, it ain't easy. You ain't signing up for an easy life. You're not choosing nothing easy, okay? You're not. I want you to be safe. I don't want nobody to put their hands on you. I don't want no one to unalive you, to kill you. I don't want anyone to do anything untoward to you. I want the same things for you that I want for myself. Now, do we have different needs in certain areas? Absolutely. Absolutely. But I ain't got no beef with trans women. I'm not looking at trans women as competition. I don't look at no woman as competition. That's, again, a patriarchal mindset of scarcity. To be like, oh, I got to hold on to this man, and I got to do this, and if I don't do that, another woman's going to... Girl, please. Find some value outside of that man and his resources. Because if you have your own resources... and you're picking a man because you truly want to be with him and he wants to be with you and all of that good stuff, you ain't worrying about no other woman. Let me tell you something. I ain't never worried about a man cheating on me. I feel like if a man is cheating on me, he ain't got good sense. And everybody don't have good taste. And that's his problem. What I look like yelling, running down another woman. Girl, my beef ain't with you. My beef was with that man. So again, my beef is not with a trans woman. At all. And I don't think that they're not taking nothing away from me by me including them in this conversation about what it means to be feminine and femininity and protecting our peace as women. I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. So again, I'm not no turf. We're not doing that over here. So if you on that, you can go over someplace else with that, but not over here with that bullshit. I don't play that. Okay? There is nothing wrong with experiencing a full range of softness and hardness at appropriate times, all the time, as a black woman, okay? I do not need to be rough and tough with my Afro puffs all the time, nor do I need to be a soft, delicate flower all the time. I'm a broad spectrum of things, and depending on how you engage with me, and depending on how you treat me, is the type of response you're going to get from me. There is not a unilateral response that you're going to get from me. It all depends. This is an equation. You treat me in a certain way, I have the right to respond and react in a certain way. And that does not have to do with nothing masculine or feminine. That's just people, okay? And like I said, we're going to talk about the animal kingdom and all of these things, okay? And how nature responds to certain stuff. If you, again, we're going to talk about from a science perspective. If you engage with the earth in a certain way, she's going to respond to you in a certain way because she got to course correct, because she has her own cycles. As a woman, I have my own cycles. There's times when I want to be out and about, and there's times when I want to be home and mind my motherfucking business. Okay, and that's my right. All right. I don't have. Listen, my mother was laughing with me before I move into the next part about mothers. Right. My mother was asking me. She was going on a cruise with her friends, and she was like, "Oh, how do you pack all of your clothes in your suitcase and all this stuff?" I said, "Mom, what clothes?" When I go on vacation with my friends, the only thing I got slutty outfits and bathing suits and drawers. I don't got no real clothes in there. All right. When I go on vacation with my friends, I'm going to skin out, drink, and have a good time. I'm not covered up in 3/4 of cloth and all that bullshit. That ain't got nothing to do with me. Again, if you want to dress modest, that is your that is your right as a woman if you want to dress modest. But I do not believe in a society dictating how women are supposed to dress based on how men are acting. If men don't have no control over themselves, how is that my problem? Again, if you are trying to overly legislate and control someone else, then why is that not going in the opposite direction of the offending party? All right. If men cannot control themselves at the sight of a little thigh or a little cleavage, how is that my fault? All right. Like I said, my father sat there and tried to mitigate male attention by putting me in baggy clothes, and all he did was give me a complex. That's all. He ain't stopped shit. It ain't stopped no grown-ass man from trying to talk to me when my baby face self was obviously a child. I look at pictures of myself from the times my father had me dressed like that. I was obviously a child. But pedophilia and all of that stuff plays into all of this patriarchal bullshit as well. Okay? Which is why they want them young, dumb, and before their frontal lobe is developed, they're like, we got to snatch them up. There was just an article in the news this week where they were talking about women are like children. What the bumbarage, your child? Women are like children? Sir, you're a pedophile. That's pederasty, okay? What are we talking about? Women are like children. So that's what I'm saying. This patriarchal bullshit is literally the infantilization of women. It is trying to say that you don't have enough sense to make your own decisions. And where have we seen this before? Oh yeah, racism. White delusion. Telling black Americans that you don't have enough sense to make your own decisions and be self-governing and make we have to be in charge of you. Who the fuck are you? So that's why I said, as black women, we fall at that intersection of black women being black and being a woman. And patriarchy and racism are two things that are intersectional, and they're two things that we deal with every single day. So while black men in America have their own set of problems, black women have a unique set of problems here, okay? And we got problems with our own men. And I ain't really trying to go into all of that right now, but you know where I'm going with that. All right. So how can we celebrate the full spectrum of black womanhood without shame? That's what I want y'all to meditate on in the comments, right? So let's talk about matriarchy in a patriarchal society, right? Now, a couple years ago, I went viral on Facebook for saying that black folks are matriarchal. And I said that, and people came for my neck. They called me everything but a child of God. I was every type of bed wench, somebody even called me a white supremacist. They went in. They talked about me like a dog. I didn't give a flying fuck. I said what I said because I have grown up in my family, both families, and seen exactly what it looks like when you got Big Mama, Auntie, the Council of Women that's running around doing all the bit and doing all this stuff. Especially if you grew up in the church. Women run the church. The pastor is up there. I'm sorry, he a figurehead. Sorry. That's part of the reason why I had to get out the church, stop going to church with my grandmother, all that. Because I'm like, I can't sit here and subscribe to none of this shit. You, Miss Green, Miss Johnson, everybody, y'all the ones that's running around doing everything. And the pastor gets to get up there and give his speech and do his thing and everything every Sunday. But y'all the ones that keep this shit going. So I'm going to say that y'all the ones that are in charge. Because if y'all ain't come and do all of this labor, who's going to do it? I'll wait. Right? So again, in our families, black families, we talk about the what it means for our families to have respect Big Mama, respect the aunties, respect the moms, respect the sisters, respect the nieces, right? Because we're the ones that's literally doing the work. We're the ones that's the keepers of culture. We're the ones that's passing things on. We're the ones that are archiving shit. We're the ones that are in the kitchen learning the recipes. We're doing that work. Okay? And whether we are being acknowledged for that work or not, that's what's happening. All right? That's what's happening. Like I said, black women is the fastest growing group of women that's going back to college. Anytime black women get bored, she's talking about, you know what, I'm going to give me another degree. Girl, I'm going to go get that master's degree. You're like, you already got 2. I want another one. Why not? Right? So when we think about all of the reasons why this may be the case, that black folks are matriarchal and we exist in a patriarchal society, and why we may even have some pushback. I'm sorry, but anytime you have those black families that's going against their women, all types of chaos is happening. All types of upheaval. When y'all going out of your way to protect Uncle So-and-so who's a lecherous pedophilic bum, who's a molester, all of that stuff, bad shit happens. Sorry. Like, all of this, I need to hold on to a man at all costs. Yeah, that's a problem. Those aunts that lived until 109, guess what? Some of them, their husband had been long gone to glory. And they was able to live another 40 years having a good life without bringing no man in their house. I seen it with my own eyes with my own grandmother on my mother's side. Okay? Of being able to preserve her livelihood and have the life that she wanted to have in her elder years, and being surrounded by family and grandchildren, children, friends. Whereas the man that she was with, who she had never lived with, for almost 30 years when they was dating, she had never lived with this man. And then he had gotten to his house had burned down and he had to move in, and it was an emergency thing. And instantly it was not what it was supposed to be. You would think this man would have acted differently. This man was jealous of the fact that my grandmother had relatives that visited. He was jealous of the fact that she had more money than him because she worked, and she had 2 pensions, Social Security. She worked her whole life. This man was very jealous of the fact that she had more than him, because I guess society, again, this is what I'm saying, racism cripples white people, patriarchy cripples men. He truly believed in his mind that he was supposed to have this regardless of whether he worked for it or not. Because why would you be mad at somebody else having more than you if you know you ain't put in that type of work? Whereas as black women, and that's why I said that's what the grandmothers come in and say, maybe make sure you have your own money. Because when you have your own money, you can always step. You can always live how you want to live. You can always buy the things that you want to buy. You can always go to places you want to go. You can always eat what you want to eat. My grandmother notoriously was like, we don't eat margarine in this house. Real butter. Because she come from the Depression era, and real butter was a luxury to her, and she was very adamant about always having real butter. She's like, I'm not cheapening my life for nobody. I hear that. That's why I'm the way I am. Right? Because this is the way our mothers told us that we needed to be, because they understood that when women don't have access to resources, you are vulnerable and you are susceptible to any type of treatment from anybody. Okay? And when we think about the different things about how black women have notoriously had to, again, like I said, navigate not only patriarchal foolishness, but racism as well, you get real adept at surviving. You know all of the little ins and outs, and you have workarounds for things, and you're able to succeed, again, in systems and in places where people truly don't even want you there, and you're still able to shine and succeed. And that's something that is literally, something that I think that right now in this very weird, odd time in history, we need to hold on to that now more than ever. Understand that we do have personal power. Even if they're trying to outwardly tell us that we don't, we have personal power. So when you think about your grandmothers and your mothers and your aunts and all of that stuff, and how they, did the caretaking and all of these things, and how your life may be very different from theirs, how are you still in your own ways cultivating community? How are you still acknowledging, if you don't have kids, okay, well, my grandmother's gone, I don't have children. What am I doing? Do you have homegirls? Do you have girlfriends? Do you have close relationship with your cousins, with your sisters, with your mom, with your aunts? Like, there's still community there. And I think that, especially if we're unpartnered, it's very easy to look and say, well, damn, I wish I had somebody, and I wish I had this, and I wish I had that, while discounting all of the ways that you already have community and connection. Don't be one of those women that puts having a male partner over everything else in your life, because you will suffer. And this is not the time to prioritize male partnership over community. You can have male partnership and community, but don't be foolish and prioritize it over community. Don't do that. Don't do that. You're gonna shortchange yourself out of a wealth of connections and love and support and nurturing if you do that. And I'm gonna be so honest with you. I truly think that it is in women's best interest to partner up with each other. If you a single mom and your homegirl's a single mom, get a place together. Get a little piece of property together. Get an apartment together. Figure out how she could work day, you could work night, and help each other. Realize that is how we have survived this shit. Hyper-individualism is going to kill us. We need community, but we already exist in community. We need to maintain community. We need to respect community, okay? You cannot talk your homegirl's ear off about that man that's not doing you right and then blow her off to go hang out with said man when y'all had plans to go out for dinner and drinks. Don't do that. Prioritize yourself. Prioritize your connections to your community. Prioritize your peace. Everything else comes after. All right? I don't want to hear nothing about, Ace of Hip Hop and Hoodoo had a very funny and controversial video this week on TikTok and one of her hot spiritual takes, and one of her things was like, y'all always talking about soul ties. Why y'all ain't never soul tied to no money? And she's right. Because what we talking about? Oh my gosh, girl, I don't know. I just love him. No, baby, you are lonely. And you are craving intimacy. And that is totally, totally natural. And I'm never going to shame women for wanting to be touched on and loved on and romance and all of that stuff. But don't force it, babes. And do not lessen or cheapen yourself just for a bit of male attention. It is not that serious, especially not in this climate, all right? Losing rights left, right, and center, and you sitting here talking about, oh my gosh, I wish I had a man. Girl, go learn, get a fucking hobby. The fuck? What are we talking about? Okay? Listen, I'm going to be honest. I have a reputation for being a man hater, and I am not ashamed. But let me tell you something. I don't want to hear nothing about that man unless he's making your life better, okay? If you coming around me looking drained, tired, dusty, overworked, unkempt, I'm going to ask you what the hell that man got you going through. Because, girl, why you look like that? Now, if you're looking well-nourished and refreshed and rejuvenated and there's a sparkle in your eyes and a pep in your step, I'm more than happy for you. Carry on. But I do not want to see no women around me associated with a man and they walking around looking broke, being, struggling, clothes looking like they ain't looking unloved, looking like they don't come from nowhere, looking literally like, as our aunties and mamas would say, who shot John? Because, babes, what's going on? You want a man that bad that you walking around here looking like what the cat dragged in? Girl, sis, stop. Okay? And there's nothing, again, like I said, I'm not going to sit here and shame nobody for wanting connection and intimacy and anything like that. But do not put your life at risk for it. Do not sacrifice your self-respect for it. And in the name of, I'm being a feminine, submissive woman. Girl, you're being a doormat, and it could cost you your life. And did your grandmother go through everything that she went through in order for you to be here to do the same old foolishness that now you have choices? Turn it on. All right? Use your head. Don't be like that. That's why I cannot subscribe to none of that trad wife content. I can't subscribe to none of the femininity coaching because most of it requires you to truncate yourself and to literally subjugate yourself so that way you can get something that's not guaranteed. Okay? That's just the long and short of it. So, in closing, all right, because we're already at the 50-something minute mark here. In closing, and then we're going to have I got to talk about the next episode. Can you please take some time to think about what it would look like for you to fully embrace your femininity, free from societal expectations and shame? If you was able to just step into the world the way you wanted to look, present yourself in the way you wanted to be presented, dress the way you want to dress, talk the way you want to talk, who would you be? And put that against what society says is feminine and realize where your blind spots are and what stuff you need to work on. Because if you are too concerned with trying to adhere to what society is saying is feminine and you're not even being yourself, you got problems. And we don't need that. At this point in time, I want women to feel comfortable with who they are. Babes, if you are a bust down baddie who likes a good 6'13" with the baby hairs, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. If you are a natural goddess and you want to wear your 4C hair and a lovely afro and you don't ever want to pick it and you don't ever want to define your curls, I'm all for that too. If you want to put on a full beat to go to the grocery store because you want to just look at yourself in the reflection and be so happy with the way your highlight is sitting. I'm happy for you. If you don't ever feel like you need to put on a fake lash or a acrylic nail or do anything besides walk outside with lip gloss and your eyebrows, I support that too. But what I don't support is women feeling like they have to contort themselves to do and adhere to things and then policing what other women are doing. Like, oh, they're not doing it right. Babes, stop. Okay, stop. Right? So when we talk about the next episode, I'm going to talk about relationships, healing, and modern feminism, right? So next time we're going to dive into the complexities of desiring partnership in today's climate, healing from intergenerational wounds, and navigating modern feminism as Black women. You don't want to miss this one, okay? So let's just end with this affirmation, and I want you to literally let this sink in, okay? Remember, you are not too much. You are not too strong. You are not too anything. You are exactly who you are meant to be, and you're magical. And I love you. Okay? So, if you like what you heard and you want to support the podcast, head over to Substack, soulthings.substack. And if you want to become a paid subscriber to support the podcast, and, I research, I do all of these things. I mean, again, I love that everybody listens. I have never asked y'all for $1 in all of the years that I had this podcast, but I've been wanting to do more long form content and things like that. So if you want to support, you want to, look out for a sister, hold me down. I truly, truly, truly appreciate that. If you just want to keep up with my long form content and my posts and things like that, you can always just go and subscribe. Anyway, I welcome that as well. You know where you can find me. I'm on Instagram at SoulThingsBK. I'm on Blue Sky at SoulThingsBK. I'm on Twitter at XDecadent. I am on YouTube, How to Be Magical, Soul Things. I am decked, right? You can find me everywhere. Y'all got my links. Holla at me. I am so grateful to every last one of y'all. Like I said, happy new moon in Pisces. Happy Women's History Month. All right, we're gonna keep it hot and spicy this month, because again, I don't want us to walk around here feeling like we too much into this and to that. Girl, be you, and I want you to be happy. Above all, like truly happy, not putting on for anybody. I want you to truly be happy with who you are as a woman, despite what society is telling you on the outside. Because society is on some bullshit right now, and that's why I'm like, this is the time for us to really settle in and to think about who we are as women and what we want to do. Okay. And to the men that's listening, I thank you so much, brother, for listening. Please, I hope that this conversation has been helpful for you too, to understand what, the insight about what women is going through these days and how you can support the women around you. And are you being an oppressive force to the women around you? You might have some shit you might need to unpack with your masculinity, but I'm not the person for that. I'm just saying that maybe the conversation may stir something up in you, and, we welcome introspective men around here. So thank you so much for listening, everybody. Again, my name is Nikki Buchanan. I'm the owner of Soul Things Botanica. You have just listened to Unpacking Femininity. And the paid subscribers are going to get this first on February 28th, but everybody else is going to get this episode on, I'm looking at my calendar, it will be March 6th, Thursday, March 6th. This is going to go live for everybody else. So if you're listening to this on March 6th, thank you so much. And again, join me next time. I'm not sure what the air date is going to be for the next episode, but I'll keep you guys posted. And thank you so much. Peace.